Hey Shane, want to check and make sure if you could type in the chat, I think everybody's automatically muted, but if you can put in the chat, if you can hear me, that'd be great. Carolyn, if you can hear me, if you could send a reaction or type in the chat or something, just make sure mic is working. Awesome, thank you. Hey, good afternoon. Thanks, Jordan, I can hear you. Great. We have a lot of people logging in. Thank you all for coming to the Brownfield stakeholder meeting today. We've got a few more minutes where we're going to let folks get logged in. And just a note, the meeting recording has already started, but it will be posted to our website after the fact for anybody who couldn't make it today. So thank you guys for joining, and we'll get started in a few minutes. Somebody could send a reaction or two if you can. I think mics and cameras are disabled, but if you can send a reaction or post a comment in the chat, let me know you can hear me. Bruce, if you're on, can't see all the people. If you could just do a mic check and make sure we can hear you.
I don't see Bruce on yet.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bruce.
Sure.
Your mic is working. Do you want to? I'll check my camera. Make sure that's working. Hello.
Yep, we can see you.
Awesome. All right, just another couple minutes, and we'll get rolling. Thanks again, everybody, for joining. It's 1:30. We'll keep letting getting people admitted here. But I just want to say thank you again for joining us for the Brownfield stakeholder meeting. As a reminder, I'll pop the link in the chat here in a moment for the website where we store all of the recordings. So if you need to go back or share with a colleague, then we will, the link to the recording will be posted on our website when that's ready. And that's also where you can register for future stakeholder meetings. So everybody's mics and camera, we just have such a big group at this point. Everybody's mics and cameras are muted, but the chat function should be working. And we'll be monitoring that throughout the presentations. We do have a little bit of an agenda today, but then there will be more than enough time for questions and answers too as we go through the day. So with it being 1:31, Bruce, you want to go ahead and get us started? Bruce, you're muted. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Yeah, we do intend this to be, a roundtable and leave significant time for that at the end. We do have a few things we do want to talk about. Just some programmatic news so that you all aware. Some of you probably are already aware of this. We have 2 new staff members. I'd like to make sure that we introduce to everybody if you haven't already met them. Stephanie Hempel and Josh Billiot in the property management branch. And actually, we also have a third brand new staff member, Celeste Dobill, who is our new eligibility coordinator. And having these positions filled is really helping the property management branch and eligibility coordination. Our previous eligibility coordinator, Lauren Fleming, has moved into project management assistance. So this is really going to be helpful to us. And that is something that is going to be, helpful as we're trying to get through greater throughput on the property management branch side, and we are now nearing close to full employment there. We have still another vacancy there and a couple on the production side at this point in time, but we are still moving forward on hiring, and things look better on that. As I said, we have 3 new staff members that have taken positions, so that is good. Just some other news too, and you all may recall that we have mentioned that we would be working on the possibility of fees and fee structure as we move into 2025. We are planning on doing that. As we transition to a new governor, we have a statutory package in on the management of DEQ for the potential prioritization. And so we anticipate there being a package for statutory modifications for the brownfields. That would include some fees along with some others, corrections of various different other nature, but that is something we are working on. And we are also looking to combine those kinds of fees, which the fees, as I think I have stated previously, haven't risen in any way on the major fees since 2008, and a small change in fees in 2012. So really, we're talking about inflation type adjustments to those fees are necessary, and that's what we're finding out from operations in the program. And so we'll be working on that. Simultaneous to that, though, we are working on a number of process streamlines and improvements. You're about to see one here in a presentation where we have a new IT application for communication with the program, and it is born out of the DEQ interest in doing so for all permitting programs. We're not a permitting program, but they recognize the value in us having our data management system within within the what is now going to be called Access DEQ, and it's going to provide us comprehensive data management and allow the public to track a project through the process, as well as allow us to track projects through the process as well. So that's going to be really good, and we're going to have a little presentation on that here coming up shortly. And then let's see, I guess the other thing that I wanted to mention on some of the process improvement levels, we are and have worked on a new format for Exhibit 2, which we have sort of tried out in limited ways, and it certainly looks to be easier to review and review from old data. And so I think we will, by checking it with old data. And so I think we're going to proceed with that. If you haven't already seen that, that will be coming forth as a process improvement. And then we are, I guess, as I mentioned on the fee level, one of the things I did also want to mention is that the statute has already provided for cost recovery in a compliance situation where we needed to enforce. And so that is something we are also looking at in terms of fees as well, to make sure that we would be able to look at fees for and cost recovery for what it's costing the state to monitor and review compliance, particularly for those who are not in compliance. And so we'll be looking to do something that the statute has already provided for, and that is cost recovery in those situations. So that is something to be looking forward to in 2025 as well. Let's see. That is pretty much it for news for the program. I am now going to turn it over to both Jordan and Jocelyn with some information. And Jordan has a presentation that she made. Some of you may have seen the presentation to the Groundwater Professionals of North Carolina. She has modified it somewhat for this presentation here, and it's really some do's and don'ts and some advice for those of you out there who are working in the program as well. And so I'm going to turn it over to her, and then I'm going to let also at that point in time, after she is done, Jocelyn talk a little bit about the new data management application known as Access DEQ, but our portion of it is Access Brownfields. So with that, let me turn it over to you, Jordan.
Thanks, Bruce. Let me get my screen share started. And Bruce is correct. This presentation in its longer form was given to the Groundwater Professionals of North Carolina. However, Jocelyn was gracious enough to present it for me. So you're not allowed to compare our performances because there were two different people here, and I'm sure she did a much better job. But going to go over really quickly for anyone who didn't see the Groundwater Professionals presentation. really just some common pitfalls we see, especially in regards to vapor mitigation. So the longer presentation kind of went over some soil guidance. But what we're really trying to do is help us make your occupancies go as quickly and as smoothly as possible. Because, you know, developers, when it gets to the end of it and they're ready to move in, it's, you know, any slight delay can have, especially residential occupants, really kind of spiraling where to go, what to do. So just how can we, you know, all work together to get occupancy as quickly as possible? All right, so first thing we're going to go over is construction prior to pre-occupancy sampling while you're putting your buildings in, and then post-construction, pre-occupancy sampling moving into your O&M's VIM systems. This is one of our favorite sites. This is a retrofit where if you've worked on those, they're always a lot of fun. They did a smoke test and the floor did great. The walls, not so much. So this is some of the things we've seen on retrofit sites, which present unique challenges. All right, just going over some things to be mindful of during construction that we've seen that can make your systems not as effective as they should be, but also can delay occupancy because we have to, you know, stop and research and check. So we've seen fans not being installed. And maybe it was a subcontractor that was supposed to do the work, or it just, you know, in the hurry to get finishings in, the contractors forgot, but we've seen active or passive fans forgotten. Separate yet equal to fans not being installed is them being installed backwards. We've seen that, and you know, it can be called, of course, during inspections, whether that's a engineer inspection or a DEQ inspection, just making sure everything is not only present, but is it running the right way. Having meetings with all your subcontractors is always a good idea. Over communication is always best, I think. And thank you to everyone that sends, you know, the inspection notifications to our property management branch. Calendar invites are wonderful. That way, when our inspectors are in the field, they know what is a planned inspection on each day. I know subcontractors can, you know, sometimes they listen, sometimes it gets forgotten, but the more we talk to them about this, the better. And then fan placement. So we've seen a lot of, you know, we have our VIMS guidelines, and then we have a VIMS plan that we review. And that's usually what's negotiated. Is a fan going to be on a roof? Is it going to be in an attic? I know a lot of townhome developers like to see their fans in the attics. And, you know, Brownfields, of course, does not. But that's something that we can talk about during the VIMS planning stages. And when it comes to construction, just please follow your VIMS guidelines. Or your VIMS documents. If we don't and we get to installation and there's not been a vent mod submitted, then you know, it can kind of put us in a tailspin of what is not matching. So we look at the installation plan and the installation report, and if the fan placement's wrong, that's, you know, we're really going to have to vet that a little further. Some more things we've seen. This goes kind of between retrofits and new constructions. We've seen vapor systems be installed incompletely. So if you look at this bottom picture here, this was a VIM system that was installed in a retrofit. They did a great job with their vapor barrier. This has a extraction system underneath the barrier. And then one of our inspectors happened by, you know, a good bit after occupancy of this building and noted there was a hole where the riser was supposed to be. The installation had gotten so far as everything horizontal, nothing had went vertical. And so this is a nice preferential pathway into a crawl space with occupied living spaces above. So again, you know, the key to this is inspections, we believe, not only on the engineer's part, but DEQ as well. We've seen improper building materials used. So just make sure you're using whatever's spec'd in your VIMS guidance, or, you know, of course, a lot of these say or equivalents. Just make sure they are equivalents. Roofing tar is not an equivalent to Drago tape. Stago tape might be. That's something we don't, you know, Stago is not rated for VOCs, of course. It's more of a methane barrier, but Stago tape is certainly better than using roofing tar to seal seams in your vapor barrier system. A big part of this is whatever variances you have. Vent mods are great, or you know, an email if it's something minor. We really prefer those engineer sealed vent mods. And if we get something as an email that we need an engineer seal on it, we'll certainly tell you about it. But just, let us know any changes you're making, and then reiterate that in the final report, just in case one person's approving the modification and someone else is reviewing the install report. We know it was reviewed by DEQ beforehand and modified and approved. So on that note, you're going to install reports, include pictures, labels, vents of everything. Just make sure that there's pictures of all the components. That's actually held up occupancy on some sites. If we have a question, hey, how or where or what was installed here, can you give us a picture of that? If they didn't have it, someone has to go back out to the field, collect the picture. Talk about your stairwells, your elevator shafts, any isolated areas that were, again, maybe called out in the VIMS plan as being isolated and need special treatment. Just make sure you talk about how that was handled in the installation report. If there are any variances, please, hey, we submitted a vent mod or an email on this date. It was approved by DEQ. Just, remind us, especially me, that this was reviewed previously and approved, and it's not something new that went off script from the VIMS install plan without DEQ foreknowledge. Include your STSs for building materials. So, when we go to our indoor air occupancy, if something's just not right, is it because it's a brand new building, or the STSs don't cover whatever we found? How do we proceed with that? Just, make sure we know all the building materials that were used. And all this is to say, all the previous 4 or 5 slides I've went through, we've gotten in the past requests, can you give us occupancy based on our data tables, figures, and lab reports? I'm sorry, I can't. All of these, everything I've just gone over is a real world example of what we've seen on an install that has either delayed occupancy or required resampling. So we really need a final installation report with pre-occupancy sampling in accordance with the VI matrix before we can give a green light to occupancy. Having said that, again, I know developers have a lot of money on these sites, and they're waiting on us to make a call based on the data we have. If any of your developers have questions, or why is this taking so long, or what does DEQ need, we're happy to explain to them the process that this goes through. But we just, we try and work with everyone as much as possible. Just give us as much time as you can to get through these install reports. On that note, pre-occupancy sampling, some sampling challenges we have seen, just something to be mindful of as you are going through your pre-occupancy steps for sampling. Make sure your SUMAs, of course, never go to 0. So you should, when you submit an install report with pre-occupancy sampling, have 4 pressure readings. What the sample left the lab with, what it got into the field with, what it left the field with, and then what the lab got the pressure back with. So if it reaches 0, either in the field or by the time it gets to the lab, that's probably going to trigger a resample. As you're aware, we like to see, 4 to 5 inches of mercury in these SUMA canisters when they get back to the lab. So just make sure you're documenting. That's a really easy thing to capture, that you're documenting what's pressures in the SUMA canisters. And then this goes a little off script here for vapor sampling, which is obviously what we're focusing on. But for soil and groundwater sampling, if you have a delay, if a cooler for whatever reason has to sit in the office over the weekend, just keep it on ice, of course, and make sure you submit a log of who stopped by every 8, 12 hours, whatever, to add fresh ice to the cooler to make sure that the samples were kept at temperature. And submit to the lab as soon as possible. More pre-occupancy challenges that we've seen. We know a lot of these mixed-use spaces have residential that gets occupied immediately, and then we have some commercial pour-back spaces that might sit for weeks, months, years before the right tenant moves in. If we have those pour-back spaces, we have in our VIMS checklist a whole section devoted to pour-backs. Just make sure that O&M checks of that area is included, and that everyone knows, this barrier is not just a moisture barrier. As you can see in the picture here, there is a concrete skirt that all the potential tenants could certainly walk around. But evidently it's much more convenient to walk on the delicate vapor barrier and allow the rocks to poke holes in it. So before this slab gets poured, I imagine there's going to be a some repairs to the vapor barrier itself. So stuff like that, if this vapor barrier in a pour back space gets damaged, it can cause some indoor air interferences in an adjacent occupied residential space, which of course is going to throw off our numbers for indoor air sampling. So we just need to make sure we keep a good check and we have solid plan for how to handle pour back areas. When you're sampling indoor air, make sure, is the furniture brand new? Is it old? Can it be removed? We've recently had a site where TCE was off-gassing from brand new furniture in a model unit that really messed up the indoor air sampling. It's just one more thing that causes delays when it comes to possible where to come from. It's something we have to track down when we're already short on time. This kind of goes to Vim's design, these long sub-slab runs. We've seen moisture entrapment, so we understand remote pressure monitoring and the value it adds, especially for residential, where you're not wanting to disturb tenants. But we have seen if a sub-slab run is really long, it can hold moisture, which can cause issues with pressure monitoring or sampling because you can't, pull vacuum on that appropriately. So just account for that in your designs, please. Again, going a little off script for vapor final grade sampling. If your land use restrictions or your EMPs require final grade sampling, know that that's intended to be submitted and approved prior to occupancy. So it's something that, in the scheme of seemingly greater problems of vapor, final grade for soil can be kind of forgotten till the last minute. We really say when curb and guttering is ready and mass grading is complete, that's when final grade sampling is, can be completed. So if that's something that you have as a requirement from a land use restriction and EMP, please just build that into your schedule as soon as mass grading is done. So it's just one less thing to worry about when you're under a time crunch. All right, so that's really it for me. Just some, again, help us help you make this as quick and painless as possible when it comes to pre-occupancy and getting, especially for residential, occupants moved in as soon as possible. I'll stop there if anyone has any questions in the chat, or Jocelyn, I think you have unmuting powers.
I think I do, but if you also want to type your questions in the chat, that would be fine as well, and I'm happy to read them. Either way.
Yeah, nothing in the chat yet.
Yeah, if you want to raise your hand, that's an option too. That's how I'll find you if you want to be unmuted.
Jocelyn, did you get questions in Belmont?
No, and I was unsupervised, so I'm not entirely sure.
All right.
We do have a question. Will you please share slides with us?
The slides, the whole recording is saved at the website. We can try to save a PDF of the slides at the website link above. That's where all documents are stored in the future. So yes, I will make a note to make a PDF of the slides and upload those to that website. Okay. If there's no other, and we'll have time for questions at the end. So if something comes up that you that you really need to ask before the end, we'll have some more time for that too. Let me get my slides. I'm going to share a little bit about our new program called Access DEQ, Access Brownfields for us. But let me make sure I'm sharing the right slide. Okay. All right. So this, as Bruce mentioned a little bit about this program in the beginning, and this is one of the things we've been working a lot on, and it is been a long time coming. We're very excited about it. So DEQ is generally moving more towards an online permitting process, and it's already live for erosion and sediment control, CAMA, but there's many other programs that are going to be that are going to be using this program and this process. So it's not just brownfields. The benefits for us are that we have a much stronger internal status tracking. We're able to share information a lot more easily across the section, even to the point of emails, right? So if I send information about a site and I went on vacation and nobody has access to my emails, there's going to be a function in the system where the notable project emails are able to be stored. So there's just a really great sharing of information that's available through the system for us. It's going to help our reporting immensely. For those of you who don't know, we report to EPA, the legislature, and I think we report to EPA twice. So we do have a lot of reporting requirements on us. And so those internal statistics are really helpful. One of the most common questions we get is, how long is it taking us to do a brownfields property application right now? So this system will be able to track that a lot more fluidly. You will have an external account where you'll be able to access a portal, and you're going to be able to see your specific project, your specific permit status. You'll be able to submit your requests and documents through the portal, and that will come directly to us. So it's really going to streamline the whole process from application all the way through to your annual LURU submittals. And there is going to be a connection to Laserfiche. We're still working out that connection, but for us to be able to copy something to Laserfiche without having to, it's all about a few minutes of time. 100 times over is a lot of time saved. So we're really looking forward to that connection. So I'm going to go through this hopefully very, very quickly, because it is a lot, and you'll be able to play with the system yourself here soon. There's a registration process, and then I'll show you a little bit about the application, what post-recordation will look like, LURU submittals, and I'll give you kind of just a quick sneak peek of what our side looks like. This is the portal that is online right now under Access DEQ on their website. So you can even click on this erosion and sediment control applications and get to the Access DEQ permit portal. Just like any other login, any other account, you're going to have to set up an account, set up a username and password. There will be a process. You'll have to set your questions and do all your things, and like any other online account. Once you get connected, this will be your landing page. You'll be able to start an application, go back to your existing applications. So if you started one and had to come back to it, that you'll be able to get to your applications. You'll be able to pay your invoices. You'll be able to see all of your permits and projects. And like Bruce said, obviously Brownfields isn't a permitting program, but this is where all of your projects will be linked to your account. And then obviously notification and settings. Most notably, there's a help function over here. If you at any point have a problem with the actual system itself, that help ticket will send you directly to our DIT and PTP folks. Clearly not me. I am not going to be the best resource for you if something's not working on this end. So there is a direct connection to submit a ticket for help with that. So to start a new application, we'll just run through a little bit. When you get to you click a new application, obviously you have a lot of options, right? There's going to be you can do your erosion sediment control, you can do your air quality permits. So like I said, this is all of DEQ. So you're going to want to, for our purposes, obviously we're going here to Brownfields property application. And from there, we really built the system was really built based on our current property application. And so it's going to look very similar, right? Enter your Brownfields property name. You can search for an existing location. So it may have had a sediment and erosion control permit. You may be able to find the property based on that and connect the two. But if you need to get a new location, that works as well. Property information, add new property, prospective developer. All of the property information for past uses, current uses, proposed redevelopment, all the things that you are used to seeing in your standard application will now be in this online form. Brownfields information, all the statutory statements that we need to have. You'll be able to pay fees online. There's an option you saw at the beginning for invoices, so you will be able to pay any programmatic fees. And then you'll be able to upload your assessments. So you will ultimately not have to send us a CD full of, 10 years worth of environmental data. You'll be able to upload all of those assessments directly to us. And we'll have all of the supporting documents that are required as part of the application. You'll be able to attach to the online application. Once you get done, one more final review, and then it's submitted through the process. You'll be generated an invoice, and you'll be able to take that. So there is an invoice option here. So once you get through your application, so let's say we have almost probably 800 recorded agreements at this point, right? So how do you connect to an existing project? Once you get your account logged in, you are going to be able to search and request access to a specific project. Once you find your project, you'll be able to explain, like, why do I need to be connected to this project? So the attorney and the consultant, and they can all have access to this specific Brownfields property for whatever reason they need to be, right? The property owner should have an account so that they can submit their LURU. The engineer of record should have an account so they can submit their monitoring requirements for their vapor mitigation systems. So there will be multiple people allowed to have access to these agreements, but that goes through us. And so we're kind of act as gatekeepers a little bit and so we'll be able to, it's not an immediate connection. You'll request access and then we approve that access on our side. But once you get in there, you will be able to see your project details. You'll be able to have all of your notifications and tasks that are happening on the property. You'll be that assessments and requests at the top. You will be able to submit a document. And you see also there's a LURU option there at the top too. So notifications and tasks. You'll be able to add, like for this example has a redevelopment summary report submitted, and you'll be able to see that it was received. We have it. Same with the soil disturbance, but in this pre-occupancy report example, that means that that's a document that we are expecting. The due date is the date due to DEQ. It's pending submittal. So hopefully that'll help track manage some of the expectations. Brownfields is expecting to see X, Y, and Z based on this, and you'll be able to see that on your side. So same thing with the LURU. You're going to be able to add this new LURU document and then upload. You'll have a link here. You can go get your form from the map. There's a lot of different ways you can get the form, but this will be one of them. You'll be able to access the LURU form right through the system. You'll still have to have that signed and notarized, but then you're going to have to, but then that will have to be, a PDF will have to be uploaded to the system. This will be available for January. So right now the plan is for this to have a Brownfields box on the website as of December 12th. And so you'll be able to start connecting to your sites. And so the LURU submittal will be something that is an option for you for this year, for January 2025. Just a quick look at our side. So this is a quick list of our LURUs, a pending land use restriction updates list. So this was a very complicated year because everything came in via email or hard copy, but then we had to hand enter this information into the system. But now we have a list of, we're able to generate our list of those who have not submitted their LURU for 2024. So the goal would be for next year, we'll assign each project a LURU submittal, and then they'll be able to submit that, and it'll be hopefully a much more quick process to get to which property owners have not submitted their LURU for this year. One of the benefits from a post-recordation standpoint, clearly I'm biased. That's where I live. The ability to track the number of post-recordation assessments was not something that we had the capability before very effectively. I mean, we were trying our best to keep track, but it is now visible for us. We can prioritize based on due dates and occupancy dates, but and keep track of things a lot better and understand what the long-term monitoring is for certain sites. So this is huge for us to be able to understand the monitoring requirements for our existing sites is really huge. So I'm gonna see if I can pop up so this, as I mentioned, this is live. This is live for DEQ. So when you get to this erosion and sediment control applications, you can actually register an account now and do if you're doing an engineer that's also doing erosion sediment control plans, that's an option for you through the system. If you get this on December 12th, Brownfields will have a box here. There will be a user guide also here specifically for Brownfields. And so if once you click on our box, you'll get to this login and here's where you will register. But if you get to a point where something's happening and it's not letting you, something's not working, there is a contact us. There's a help function up here, and there's a contact us that should go straight to DIT. Because the permit, to be perfectly honest, this part is not something that I will be able to help you with. We can work out some of the kinks and we'll find them, right? So this is a new system, so we just ask for your patience as you start to use the system. I think that's the name of the game is patience, and hopefully we're gonna launch this on December 12th. Please start getting connected to your sites when that happens, and that way we're ready for LURUs in January. And as you have documents to submit, reach out to your project manager and say, we've got to kind of go through this for a little while in order to see that, in order to see exactly how it's going to work on our side. So that's that.
Jocelyn, we've got a couple of questions in the chat.
Sure.
The first one is, has there been a feel for how many additional man hours to consultants this new system will add? It would help to know for budgeting purposes.
In my opinion, this is going to replace sending a summary email that you're sending us a report with, right? Most consultants are sending their documents via email with a summary of what you're sending. This will replace that process. So I don't anticipate, and the benefit of being able to see where it is in the system and get a confirmation that it's been received, I think in my mind would outweigh once you get started and once you have an account set up. Like everybody, it's a new system. Everybody's going to have to learn it for all of DEQ. It's not just Brownfields.
Right. And I mean, I think initially it might take you a little bit more time as you get used to it, but it should be less time as time goes on. And didn't we have beta testing with some consultants sending in applications?
Yes.
I was not involved in that process, but
yeah, we did have that.
We did have a group. We did
go on. Yeah.
And
I think we got some good feedback from that and made some changes, but I think in general the feeling was positive about it, and I think it's basically no different than applying for this through this system than it is currently. And
it'll be tracked. It'll be tracked better than sending an application to an individual, right?
Sure,
right.
Absolutely.
To make sure. Yeah. The second question is, how are signatures handled with the online submissions?
So I think there's a couple different things. If it's a document that's a signed and sealed report that would be submitted for DEQ review, like a Brownfields assessment report or something like that, that in my mind is just a PDF that has a PDF of just like you're submitting now, right? You're not doing a form field. I will need to check on the application side of things. There are a couple certifications that do need to be signed. And I think we need to double check on that before but for the typical signatures that you use most regularly, like for a LURU, it does need to be signed and notarized still, but we are accepting a PDF of that signed and notarized document as the LURU submittal. We've been doing that with the emails as well in the past. So the most frequent signature items you're going to come across are being handled with PDFs. So
at the moment, that's true. The system does not currently have DocuSign in it, but that is something that we hope will be added in the not too distant future. We're looking for that feature to be on there so that that can be on there as part of, even submitting a Brownfields property application. There's a affidavit that would come in. This would be able to do this through DocuSign. We might be looking at DocuSign as an alternative to requiring notarization, or there may be e-notary ways in which we can ultimately use it too. But at this particular point in time, we're not going to fancy that up to that degree. We are going to push this system out, as Jocelyn said, and use what we can through PDFs of those signings and sealings.
Good. The next question, will documents uploaded via Access DEQ be immediately visible to public? Or will Brownfield staff review first before they are available for public consumption?
That's a great question. And DEQ staff has to review them and essentially send a copy to Laserfiche. So everything we have, I mean, if we get we frequently do have a couple of comments and we'll get a revision. So that draft will not go automatically to Laserfiche. Nothing will go to Laserfiche until we tell it to. Now I believe it would be visible to others who have connection to that site.
Right.
So not overall public, but if you have another consultant, or if you have another or an attorney or a property owner on that property, I believe they would be able to see documents submitted in that context, but nothing will be on Laserfiche fully publicly available until DEQ sends it to Laserfiche.
Right. And then we've got lastly a clarification to an earlier question. My question was more relating to uploading the data from work plan assessments. Will we still be required to submit a quote paper copy unquote of the report and also put raw data into the system?
So I don't know if you're referring to Equus perhaps, but we have not. Brownfields is not currently requiring submittal of just the data through Equus right now. There is and so I don't want a paper copy, so but we do need a PDF, and
no
that would
paper
have to go
copies.
through this system. Right, don't send me a paper copy.
Yeah, we stopped paper copies in 2011.
A full version, a full PDF of the report needs to be uploaded to Access DEQ in order to get it into our system for review at all. So that will be there will, like that. You've all heard, many of you probably are already using Equus for many other sections. It's not something that we're not at that point yet. So we will have to address that when the time comes. But it's my understanding that from our process, we still need that signed and sealed document in order to get it into the system for review. So I hope that helps a little bit. If you want to raise your hand, I can try to unmute you if you want to clarify.
And that's the last question we have in the chat. Is there anything else?
And that was the end of our, like, what we wanted to share. Other than December 12th, make sure you start getting connected to your sites on Access DEQ. So even if there's no Access DEQ questions, are there any other questions for Brownfield staff in general?
Yeah, let me just also reiterate what Jocelyn did say, and that is LURUs will be able to be submitted, and we hope that you do submit them through the system in January.
Yes. I will say it will not be required for this January because it is so new, and we, have a few weeks before that, by before they're due. But at some point, it will be the required mechanism for submittal of LURUs. We will have to put a date on it. But for this January, it will not be required, but we are asking, please help us get this system up and running. And the best way to do that is to find all the quirks and to start using it.
Any other questions? Yeah. or
Okay, so I guess
comments?
let's just move into any particular roundtable questions that you all have.
Okay.
Either
We
about the
do-
presentation or other questions about the program. We're glad to have a roundtable here.
Bruce, there's another question in the chat. Will there be convenience fees associated with payment through the system?
We have some of our support, the IT folks. I actually don't know the answer to that. Did any of you IT folks know the answer to that? Let me see if
Go
I
ahead,
can
Billy.
unmute.
Billy,
He
Billy,
can't.
you've got it.
He can't.
Yeah, you
I've
gotta-
got to
Gotcha.
unmute. I'm sorry. All right, you should be able to unmute now, Billy.
Oh, there you go. Hey, I was just going to say, I've got this. I think it might be easier for me to paste this into chat. So I'll do this. I'll do that momentarily, just to keep things moving. So hang tight.
Thank you.
So the answer to that question is likely to be the case, but I think Billy's going to put more information in the chat.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, so the
There you go.
answer is
Okay,
yes.
Thank you, Billy.
Yeah, thanks, Billy.
Thank you, Richard Funk actually posted.
And
it. Thank you.
Richard, both Billy and Richard have responded to that in the chat, folks. So
We use a service called Pay It. That is kind of the new standard digital payment service, which is used for other agency services such as My NCDMV for driver's license renewals and things like that. So it's a DIT's preferred way for payments in North Carolina state government at this time.
Great. Thank you for that.
any other questions or comments? It's another
So
one for,
sorry,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
oh, that's okay. Oh,
We
could
were
we
just
all see
working with
this?
the LURUs today. So, will the forms be submitted through Access DEQ or will be a fill out as you go type of submittal? It is going to be a download the form because they have to be right now. They have to be signed and notarized, and we don't have like an e-notary function as a part of this right now. So for the start of this program, it's going to be a download the LURU just like you would do. Have your property owner sign, fill it out, sign it, have it notarized, and then upload a PDF of that final document. And I don't think you missed it. I just don't think I was clear enough about it. Sorry.
Anything else? Do we need to upload copies to local jurisdiction's health department? Or LURUs?
I have to look at this. Does not go to this system is only for DEQ. So if your agreement has a requirement that says that the LURU must be sent to local health departments, then that's a separate process. This process is only for DEQ.
Is the system set up to receive LURUs from multiple property owners in cases where there are several different owners? Apologies if I missed this. I don't think we talked about that. So
We didn't. This is definitely it is a challenge for our system, right? Because we often have parcels. We have brownfields properties that are parceled out and into any number of, and then we also have instances where there are homeowners associations submitting on behalf of multiple property owners. So we are making some final tweaks to this specific topic, but in concept, yes, you will be able to submit multiple LURUs for one brownfields property. So there will each individual property owner will be identified in the system as a brownfields property owner and as required to submit a LURU. So it should be in our system that we are able to accept multiple LURUs from multiple property owners for one brownfields property. It is not an easy task, I promise, but that we're working on it.
Any other questions? All right, well, without any other questions, thank you all for attending. We appreciate it very much.
Yep. Have a great day,
thank you,
everyone.
everyone. Have a
Bye.
We
great day.
look for our next one to be next quarter, quarter, which would be sometime around the beginning of March.
Yes. Perfect.